Welcome back. You're watching HFO-TV.
Please join me in welcoming Jean-Pierre Veillet.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me today. This is an incredible event. And, you know, what's really nice is walking into this event and seeing that sculpture from Manuel Izquierdo. If you guys are familiar with the Icarus that's kind of landed upside down right at the entry. Manuel was a mentor of mine and instructor of mine. And the great thing about growing up here in Portland was the art community was very involved in how we were developing. I mean, putting art in public places, I mean, who does that? Why do we do that? It slows us, it makes us think. You know, it's so easy to get behind these numbers and all this great information that we have and say, you know, why don't we just move this all forward? This makes a lot of sense. We need to, you know, we need to keep up with the migration. We need to fill these houses. But we also need to pause sometimes, and we need to look at, you know, how we want this community to be. The community I grew up in Portland was, it was sensational. It's changing. And I don't want to resist the change. I certainly welcome everybody who comes here to Portland. As I was, you know, welcomed, or I was actually born here, not born in Canada. But we need to figure out what culture we want moving forward. So with Pine Street Market, I think the interesting thing is that what we identified was a lot of the restaurateurs and the creatives and whatnot were starting to kind of get sacked by increasing rents, increasing labor costs, a lot of competition in the marketplace. But it's this huge identity of who we are as Portland. So what do? We found a building, Southwest Portland, $67 a square foot, and we decided to bring the good food of Portland downtown and put everybody together. Get these guys to double down on the restaurants that they'd already built, use that restaurant space as a commissary to service another environment where they could all be together and kind of share this culture of Portland in Southwest Portland, where we see a lot of tourism and activity. And it worked great. I mean, worldwide press. I mean, it was amazing. There's no subsidy in a project like that, but there's a lot of great goodwill and a lot of people that stand behind us to continue doing these things. So I side with a lot of people that have talked today about, you know, what are we trying to do with, you know, some of the things that the city's putting forward. And being the head of a construction company, I have to say the process of BDS and entitlement is probably the largest cost driver in our industry. I don't think anybody talked about that. But then when you add the inclusionary zoning piece on top of that, at that time, I think we're going to see a backfire, a cost explosion, and we're not going to be servicing the creative community, the chefs and whatnot, without alternate solutions. I think that's our reality. I think that we know we have a tight labor market, but it's not so much that I mean, in some ways, yeah, there's not a lot of skilled labor, but we're pulling from other states. People want to come here. It's that you can't necessarily hire if you don't know when you're going to start. None of the subcontractors know when they're going to start. They don't know when it's going to end. So they're running skeleton crews, and that runs costs up. Duration extends, costs go up. We're not going to see the effect of necessary slowing down of construction, because at the same time, the one thing that the Housing Bureau is not monitoring is that cap rates are dropping and rents are going up. That's what we should be monitoring if we're talking about affordability. As these cap rates drop, the values are going up, which allows us to build things for more. So the cost will continue to increase, in my perspective, on the road that we're going, from construction and from architecture, as long as we have these extended durations. And from the development investor community, what we're feeling is this uncertainty. The uncertainty is really born in when you find a piece of property, you know what you want to do with that piece of property, you go through the process of architecture, some of the early assistance information might be thrown out in that process and then you have to start over. You go through the permitting and entitlement process, which can take, I was upset about 16 months for one of our projects, but I've heard as much as 3 years. Where does it end? The crystal ball gets very foggy if you're building towards something that's going to come to completion 5 years out from where you started. That is a big threat to developing. I don't think that we're going to see any less in-migration, which is going to drive the absorption, the quick absorption. But I think if we have these issues, we will continue to see a reduction in supply and therefore an increase in demand. Rents will go up, and, well, you can figure out the rest. We're moving out, one great factor that we're seeing now is that Milwaukee is getting the urbanism that they always wanted to have. Those are great markets. I'm astonished. My father worked as an emergency room doctor in Milwaukee for 40 years. I'm astonished at what what property is going for in Milwaukee right now because it's along mass transit. I encourage mass transit. I encourage the use of it. Obviously, the number one topic in Portland is, oh my God, I can't believe how long it takes to get from here to there. I can't even plan for it anymore. So we have to, I would love to see, what we focus on with SiteWorks is livability, walkability, access to light and air, social responsibility. Growing up in the art world, getting an art degree, what better thing can you do than to affect the community that you're in and give people something that really inspires them? So maybe it's 3-bedroom units in good school districts. Maybe it's, people getting away from the old idea where they've drawn the line in the sand and said, I have to have my craftsman bungalow with a garden across the street from my favorite restaurant and don't park in front of my house. And there's a bus stop a block away. And if I can't have that, I can't stand Portland anymore. We need to get away from those ideas. You only have to look at Europe to understand density. Great Britain is roughly the size of Oregon, and there's 54 million people in that country. 53 million of them are in England. We're heading there. We can't build a wall around Portland and say, no more, don't come here. This is ours to share. This is ours to grow with, but we have to maintain an idea of what is the culture. The culture that we have has economic value, and I know that sounds weird. It's one of those local words, culture having economic value. It's like art tax. It's like, great idea, but it sounds terrible. So, how do we invest in that culture? How do we continue to create affordability, create spaces for the service industry, for the creatives, for the chefs, the social workers, the teachers, the people that really help build the fabric of this community in the way that we're doing it. And so this room of people is the people that are going to do that. I don't think that we're going to get the help from our city government in the process anytime near. It's getting a little bit more constricted right now before it gets better. So we're going to have to muscle through that. But these people in this room are the ones that hold the future of Portland. And I wanted to share a little piece about how growing up in the creative world is really important and why jobs are being created here. And why those jobs are not the jobs of plywood and salmon as they were when I was a kid, but those are the jobs of the future. This is the high-tech industry. This is the sportswear industry. This has a lot of legs into the future. And it's, undeniably some of the most beautiful landscape in the world. I don't see that slowing for a number of reasons. So, in conclusion, thank you all for coming. And please do your part to help invest in the creative culture and the culture of Portland going forward.
Welcome back. You're watching HFO-TV.